Before we start, I want you to think about something. When was the last time you heard a politician make a promise and actually deliver on it exactly as stated?
This is the RusNkaZ Show. Bam Bam calling shots like a maestro. This is the RusNkaZ Show. Where the wild and the crazy grow. Turn it up, feel the rhythm flow. Hustle rock, bam bam. Let's go, let's go.
Actually, hold that thought, because today we're fact checking the fact checkers, diving into the claims versus the reality and asking the question that matters most. In an era where every statement gets dissected by 12 different views outlets with 12 different agendas, does the truth even exist anymore? Ending 6 wars, cracking down on illegal immigration, billion-dollar deals with foreign nations, and tariffs that apparently don't touch the consumer because our economy is just that strong. That's the pitch. But is the barrel pointing straight, or are we looking down a hole of mirrors? Let's zoom out and get specific. When Trump talks about ending 6 wars, what does he really mean? First, let's define what we're calling wars here. Are we talking about official congressional declarations of war, military operations, troop deployments? Because where it gets murky is that we don't even know. Now, let's go from the 2023 rally, but let's break this down methodically. Number one, Afghanistan. Yes, troop levels decreased, but the withdrawal timeline was set and executed under Biden. Number two, Syria. Troops were repositioned, not fully withdrawn. 3. Iraq. Similar story, reduction but not elimination. Somalia. Operations continued under different classifications. Kind of see the pattern? So it's about how you frame the question is where the truth really lies. Immigration, however, now this is where the numbers get really interesting. ICE deportations during Trump's team averaged about 267,000 per year. Obama's first term, 409,000 per year. But here's the kicker, and this is where political messaging gets brilliant. Trump focused on border apprehensions, which this did see significant changes in policy and enforcement style. The billion-dollar deals. Let's talk about the China Phase 1 trade deal. Signed January in 2020, China committed to purchasing an additional 200 billion in US goods over 2020-2021. Did it really happen? China purchased about 58% of what they committed to. Failure or success? Given COVID disruptions, what would you call it? Leave your comments below. Let me know. This is where your political lens determines your reality. And now, the tariff question that's about to blow your mind. Trump repeatedly claimed that China pays the tariffs, not the American consumers. Economics 101 says that's not how tariffs work. They're typically passed on to consumers. But there's the plot twist. A 2019 study by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York found that while tariff costs were largely passed to consumers, the dollar's strength during this period actually offset some price increases for imported goods. So was Trump wrong about the mechanism but accidentally right about the outcome? Or was this calculated messaging based on complex economic dynamic most people don't even understand? Let's pit the claim against counterclaim. Lightning round style, baby. Straight shooter, kept campaign promises, challenged the establishment. What's the evidence on that? Built significant portions of border wall, renegotiated NAFTA into USMCA, moved US Embassy to Jerusalem. What are the counterclaims to that? Marketing mirage, overstated accomplishments, misleading statistics. What is the evidence for that? Many so-called completed wall sections were repairs, replacements. USMCA changes were incremental. Embassy move was just symbolic. But here is what's really happening, folks. We're not actually debating facts anymore. We're debating which facts matter and how to interpret them. And that brings us to the real question. In a world where every statistic can be spun, every achievement can be diminished, and every failure can be explained away, how do we separate signal from noise? Because noise makes a lot of noise. And even though everybody's pointing left and right, signaling this and this way, but as BizDoc says, and the whole PBD podcast team says, people talk, signals talk, but numbers scream. And that's where data comes in. I want to share something with you that changed how I think about political truth telling. It's a concept called truthful hyperbole, a term Trump himself used in The Art of the Deal. If you have ever read that book, it's an awesome book. It's basically, the idea is that just throw the craziest thing against the wall, and if it sticks and people start to follow it, go for it. The idea is this: you make a bold, exaggerated claim that captures the essence of what you believe to be true, even if the specific details aren't perfectly accurate. Is this lying? I wouldn't say so. Or is this how humans actually communicate? Think about it. When you tell a friend, I've told you a million times, you're not literally claiming you've repeated something exactly 1 million times. You're using hyperbole and to emphasize frequency and frustrations. But what happens when this communication style meets politics? Let me give you 3 specific examples that illustrated this perfectly. Number 1, I build the greatest economy in history. Hyperbole element, greatest in history. Core claim, the economy performed well. The reality, unemployment was low, GDP growth was solid, but greatest in history depends heavily on which metrics you choose and which periods you actually compare. Example number 2, we rebuilt our military. Hyperbole element, rebuilt implies it was broken. Core claim, military spending increased. Reality, defense spending did increase, but the military wasn't broken to begin with. And the last example, example number 3, I saved millions of lives with COVID response. Hyperbole element, specific number claim. Core claim, response prevented deaths. Reality, impossible to quantify prevented deaths, but some policies likely had positive impact. See the pattern? The question isn't true or false. It's what's the kernel of truth inside the promotional packaging? And that notification sound, that's the sound of the modern information environment. We're getting bombarded with claims, counterclaims, fact checks of the fact checks, fact checks of the fact checks of the fact checks. But here's what I want you to consider. What is the real issue? What if the real issue isn't Trump's relationship with truth, but our collective inability to process complexity because we're either lazy, don't want to do the research, or put our own critical thinking skills to the test? As I promised you earlier, I'd reveal something about tariffs that flips the script. Here it is. In March 2018, Trump imposed steel and aluminum tariffs. Standard economic theory says that this should have increased prices for American consumers buying products containing these metals. But here is the fascinating part. I am reading directly from a Peterson Institute for International Economic Study. Quote, the tariffs on steel and aluminum appear to have had the intended effect of boosting domestic production, while the price increases to downstream users were smaller than expected due to competitive pressures and inventory management. End quote. How would you translate this? The tariffs worked more like Trump claimed and less like traditional economic models predicted. Oh, what do you know? The mainstream media economics is wrong. What do you know? Really? Was Trump lucky though? Or did he understand something about modern global supply chains that traditional economists missed? What do you think? Put it in the comments below. Let me know what you think. But wait, there is more. Just like the marketing scheme. But wait, there is more. The same study found that while steel tariffs had this effect, the broader China tariffs were indeed largely passed on to consumers. So Trump was simultaneously right and wrong, depending on which specific tariff you're talking about and examining. This is the complexity problem, folks. In our second bite culture, we want simple answers, true or false, good or bad, success or failure, like there is no middle, there is no gray area. But the reality is messy. That's the truth. It's not clear, white, and black, as if it can be either right or wrong. Here's what I think is really happening. We're witnessing collision between old school political communication and the information age. Traditional politicians speak in careful, nuanced language designed to avoid definitive claims. Trump speaks in bold, everyday understood by everyday people, absolute terms that invite scrutiny. And that's why he's probably online and on almost every single newspaper every day. They even thought that he died because he didn't show himself on social media for a couple of days. It was like number one keyword search, Trump dead. I just can't believe that, but that's the way it is. Biden wouldn't come and answer any questions whatsoever because, he probably didn't even know that he was the president. He was like falling asleep most of the time. But anyway, traditional approach leads to statements like this. We believe our policies may have contributed to positive economic trends, though multiple factors were involved. Trump's approach, I built the greatest economy in history. Both can be true, both can be misleading. The difference is in the style, not necessarily the substance. He's more of a promotional marketing genius by twisting, like I said, just throwing random, exaggerated, some outlandish stuff against the wall, and if it sticks, he goes for it. Not a bad marketing scheme, I'll tell you. All right, I challenge you, the listener. I want you to try an experiment this week. Pick any political figure. Just pick anybody. Doesn't matter which party. Find 3 claims they've made recently and then do this. Number 1, identify the hyperbole. What parts are clearly exaggerated just for the effect? Number 2, find the core claim. What's the underlying assertion? Number 3, research the reality. What do multiple sources say about the facts? Number 4, consider the context. What was the setting, audience, and purpose of the statement? I guarantee you'll discover something interesting. Almost every political communication contains elements of truth, exaggeration, and strategic framing. The question isn't who tells the truth, it's who tells the truth that align with your values and priorities. And yes, that includes me as well. Right now, I'm framing the entire discussion in a way that supports my thesis that political truth is complex. Someone else could take the same facts and argue for a much more black and white interpretation. The difference is, I'm telling you, I'm actually doing this. So, to close out the segment, so is Trump a straight shooter? Or is he a liar full of you know what? You want to know my answer? He's a consistent communicator who uses hyperbole, strategic thinking, and promotional language to advance his political narrative exactly like every other successful politician. Only he's a businessman and has a totally different style to him, which is very appealing to some and very disturbing to others. The difference is that his style invites more scrutiny, generates more controversy, and forces us to confront the uncomfortable questions about how political communication actually works. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? That's for you to decide. But here is what I know for sure. In a democracy, the most important skill isn't the ability to identify who is telling the truth. It's the ability to think critically about competing claims, understand your own biases, and make informed decisions despite incomplete information. And always and always use critical thinking skills to dissect the information that you are actually being fed. And that, my friends, is a skill worth developing, regardless of which politicians you support. That's the RusNkaZ Show for you for today, hosted by BamBam. Reminding you that the truth isn't always simple, but it's always worth pursuing. Hit subscribe if this made you think. Share it if it challenged you, and remember, the most dangerous lie is the one you tell yourself. We'll see you next time. Enjoy. Bye bye bye.
No, turn it up, let's see what's below. Hosted by Bam Bam.